So Ian Garry just dominated Carlos Prates for 3 rounds, then lost the last 2 due to fatigue. And I'm not surprised that any of this happened because Carlos Prates' best win was Neil Magny, whereas Ian Garry's best win was Jeff Neal, and those are two completely different names. Ironically, Jeff Neal lost to Neil Magny, but styles make fights, and I think Jeff Neal is a way more dangerous opponent than Neil Magny, especially looking at their ages. Neil Magny was about 37 when he fought Carlos Prates, so he's no longer in his prime, and he isn't the same gatekeeper we know him as. Carlos Prates comes from a Muay Thai background, and oftentimes he starts his fights heavy on the front foot. Then when he gets comfortable with his opponents, he's more rear leg heavy, allowing him to check kicks and land teeps. But this wouldn't work very well against Ian Garry because Ian would land the low kicks anyway, and even if Carlos checks them, Ian would still be winning on points. And the fact that Ian's good at fighting on the outside means this type of approach would work heavily against him. His best bet was to pressure Ian Garry, fatigue him, and hopefully land the left hand because he would most probably be losing on points. Carlos Prates has the best cross in the welterweight division by a mile. We've already seen him knock out 3 opponents with it, that being Trevin Giles, Li Jinliang, and Neil Magny, who was out cold. And Ian Garry stands tall at 6'3", so he's very susceptible to it. Shavkat capitalized off of that early in their fight. But for some reason, Carlos had little to no success landing the cross on Ian. Why? Because Ian was constantly circling to his left, avoiding the power side of Carlos. On top of that, he was way too fast for Carlos. He would dart in, land strikes, dart out. And what people seem to forget is that the best defense is literally stepping back. If you block your opponent, you don't know what he's going to throw next, and if he lands that on you, he could put your lights out, especially when you're going up against a combo specialist like Ilia Topuria, who won't only land 1s and 1-2s. If you stay in the pocket too long, he'll land 3 and 5 punch combos, and I don't care if you're Anderson Silva, there's no way you're going to consistently evade every single one of those punches. At least one of them is going to land, and if you're fighting Carlos Prates, it will put your lights out. So Ian Garry had to fight the coward's fight, fighting on the back foot, using lateral movement, just staying out of the pocket, because why? At the highest level, that's the only way you're going to consistently win. If you stay in the pocket against someone who's more powerful than you, it's not an even trade-off. Even if you have more volume, the simple fact that one punch can change the course of the fight means it's better for you to stay on the back foot and just fight the boring fight that the fans don't want to see. Ian Garry is a master of that, and I honestly appreciate his style. Most MMA fans found this fight entertaining, but there are a few edgy teens who thought Ian Garry was running away, but that just isn't the case. I only call for timidity when no damage is done. According to the unified rules of mixed martial arts, timidity is avoiding contact with an opponent, intentionally or consistently dropping the mouthpiece, or faking an injury. Ian Garry did none of that, and he landed 126 strikes officially. That's well above average and more significant strikes than MVP landed in his fights against Sharon Magomedov and Kevin Holland respectively. So I don't think anyone can complain about Ian Garry in this instance. A great example of timidity is Jose Aldo versus Mario Batista, because Batista would attempt takedowns, fail them, and just control Jose on the cage, landing 0 significant strikes and somehow won the round. Another great example is Cron Gracie constantly pulling guard even when his opponents land nothing but a feint on him. Ian Garry was landing straight punches, low kicks, body kicks, head kicks. I counted at least 10 head kicks in that fight. 90% of them were blocked, but they still did damage. I was surprised by the fact that Carlos was fighting with his hands up, because most of the time in his fights prior, his hands were low. I think it's because he didn't respect the striking of his opponents prior. Ian Garry's biggest strength is probably his head kick, the same one he used to knock out Daniel Rodriguez. So I'm sure Carlos Prates was very wary of that, hence him keeping his hands up for the whole time. I still think Carlos is legit because he won the last 2 rounds and almost finished Ian in the 5th. Had he landed 2 more grounded strikes, his hand would have been raised, but clearly Ian wanted it more. I want to give Carlos the benefit of the doubt and assume that he was fatigued, but Ian was the one with high output in the first 3 rounds. You would expect Carlos to have enough energy to finish the fight, but he was allowing Ian to out-scramble him. All he had to do was force Ian to carry his weight, then land grounded strikes. If he literally just dived on Ian, Ian wasn't going to be able to get him off, especially in the 5th round. There's still hope for Carlos Prates as long as he gets a favorable matchup like Colby Covington. I know a lot of people probably think Colby's wrestling is going to hold up, but Carlos displays a very good takedown defense in his fight against Ian Garry, defending most of the takedowns, and Ian only managed to take him down for the first time in the 3rd round and wasn't really able to capitalize off of that. Carlos would get up immediately, so I think that'll work very well against Colby. And Colby is in the back end of his career, so I don't think he'll be able to keep up with some of the young and hungry guys. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace out.